insurance space, everything is like these PDFs of thousands of pages, and you're trying to take things out of it. And I think there was a time early on when I had like Opus open and the max like set. Like I just didn't really know the settings, and it started ripping through a 1,000-page document. I spent like $80 in a day, and but leadership there was like, these are all like learning experiences. Let's talk about it. So there's settings. I think like there's just a high upfront cost to get everyone on the same page.
Great. Great to talk to you guys, Shanti and Jake. Today we're going to talk about a lot of, we would mostly talk about token optimization, but maybe in the context of other things that lead to token not optimization and other. I'm hoping we touch some of the nodes on drifts and hallucination as well as we look into optimization and graphs and ontology and whatever else. So excited to talk about that. Jake, do you want to start with a little bit of a quick introduction to yourself and then some context of why this topic is so important for you?
Yeah. So I'm really excited to be on with you guys. My name is Jake Mendlovic. I'm the director of AI product at Sodali Co, which is a shareholder advisory company, and that's real new to me. That just started about a month ago. A lot of my background is in data analytics, data science. I followed a lot of stuff that Piyanka's done for years. I saw we had LinkedIn messages like almost a decade ago. So it's really cool to be talking to you. I most
I
of my
have
career,
also a pedigree of Cap One. Which
yeah.
yeah.
So Capital One. I've worked in startups, a few different startups, and I was at Progressive for 7 years. So Progressive Insurance. So a lot of my background's in finance. The finance people don't say I'm in finance, but finance, insurance, and on the data side of all of that. And then over the last year plus, I was at Nirvana, which is an insurtech, and that's where I got really deep into this AI world. It was a really amazing time to join, where they had a lot of this, like, I don't know if you call it integration sprawl, but like where a lot of companies are today. They have 10 different subscriptions to different chatbots and email chat, and that went from a journey, and not everyone was using it too, maybe 20% of people, and that went on this journey through aggregating and getting into deeper, like the individual products that we should be using, optimizing that, and moving towards this like single AI operating system that we had like 100% utilization across the company, non-tech folks, tech folks. So it was amazing to see that happen, and I was part of this team that helped to like roll that out. Like they had kind of like a champion network of the people that were very involved there. So that was really good experience for me. I was on the insurance product side, and so that's also been like a transformation too, seeing where product was at maybe a year ago, and then the amount of code that actual like product managers are writing today. That changed drastically over that time. But I think this topic is really interesting to me because that journey we went on, like it went through all of these different phases of using MCPs and filling up context windows and overflowing and hallucinating and adding new agents to just all these different things on top of each other, and then trying to like kind of pull that apart to get to something where we're optimizing, we're caching tokens, smarter ways to do things.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that, in my new role too, they are amazing at what they do, but now I'm kind of on that journey again.
And before we go deeper into this, I mean, I think most organizations are facing this, like everybody should use tokens, everybody should use Claude or whatever they have set up, everybody should use it. And then, wait a minute, what's happening to our spend and budget? Half the month is gone and we have overspent it. Like we don't have any more budget left for any more spend, and the credits have run out or whatever else is happening. So it's it's kind of like a conundrum of we want everybody to use it, like let's get everybody to use it, and now you're using it too much, and most likely that the underlying reason is not like you're using it too much. You're using the tokens, or you're repeating. Basically, it's misutilization, like I think what you began to talk about. So I think it's a very important topic to talk about. And Shanti, I can see.
Oh, yeah. I I check in on my team frequently, and when I see high API charges, my first message to them is, "You've logged in via OAuth through the Claude subscription for Claude Code, right? Like, let's get through the subscription usage first, then we'll get into overages. Just making sure we're using the included pieces of the plan, because a bunch of us have the premium subscription. So let's make sure that on the team plan we're doing it that way. Then we can talk about API usage and why API versus some other way of calling. And then what model are you using and all of the other fun pieces of it. But yes, I look at the utilization more closely than I should, but mainly it's to make sure people are using enough.
So you're on the other side, Shanti. You want?
Oh, yeah.
Are you on it? Are you using it daily? So you're.
Yes, the only problem with the subscription and the team plan combination is you can't see token usage by person through the subscription, only the API one. So I'm like, I don't know if they're using enough of it. I want to make sure. So I'll ask people like, run Claude status. Let me know what you've done this week.
Yeah,
Are you
that's a
chief Claude officer now?
Unfortunately, yes. I'm also the Codex officer and the OpenAI ChatGPT officer. I don't monitor everything, but those three I will occasionally check the admin console for, because there's various things we can tweak.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Shanti, that's interesting to hear. It'll be interesting to hear the way that you approach. Is it just like how much they're utilizing it, how many people, how the cost that they have? That kind of like people talk about like token maxing it out, like just how much are you using? But other ways to like monitor how is it the number of agents that the company's converted from a process to something else. I think that's been this like hard problem too of like what's the best metrics, KPIs for usage?
Yeah, definitely not token usage. That's I'm half joking with the I want to see how many tokens they're using, half not, because if you're using things efficiently, then your token count might stay relatively low, but you're getting a lot done. I really just want to make sure that everybody is getting the most out of the tools that they have in front of them, whether that's Anthropic-based tools, which are really good. If it's some other kind of tool, that's fine too. But as long as we're using something and we're maximizing our efficiency.
And I also wanted to ask, before we talk about token optimization, how would we know? I mean, how would we know if our tokens are optimized?
I mean, the best way is actually running the same workload and measuring it. So when we're building AI products for some of our customers, we build bespoke solutions for them. Often what we'll do is we'll run the workload in the original state, and then we'll do things like, hey, if we add caching to this, what's the savings? So we'll see a before and after, and we might do 2 or 3 or 4 iterations of that, so we can understand where does it make sense to put all of the extra effort into trying to make the process really efficient, and where are we not using that much? It doesn't matter what we're doing. Like if we're running something that's on a mini model, something small, not worried about the tokens in, the tokens out, they're relatively inexpensive, no big deal. If we're running something that is using thinking models, if we're running Opus 4.7, now I care especially about the output tokens. And I want to know, how can I cache them, minimize them, do what I can to bring the cost down.
Yeah. So what I gist of this, Shanti, for me is that there isn't a score which I can get, or which you can even in any way. I was just beginning to think about it right before our call. Like, can you build an alternate system in parallel, which will say, hey, your token utilization is 35%, or it isn't an absolute science. It's more about using these different tricks. I think Jake, you mentioned that as well. Using these different tricks to see whether it's worth even going and fine tuning it. And I think, Shanti, what you were alluding to was, especially when you said we'll go in and then do caching or something else, you're thinking about agentic system which you are hoping to productionalize, so that this process would run every day on Monday or whatever else. How can we make sure that this runs in the most efficient manner, cost efficient manner, versus an output as well, accuracy versus one and done. I'm just actually right now building a system, like when we are writing, we're using code for Claude code and getting code out of it. How do we know whether it's optimized because we just use it once for getting what we want, and so on and so forth. How many skills did you use, or whatever else, or did you call? Did you actually commit as a skill, or you're just calling the same thing over and over again, and so on. There's so much to munch here.
Yeah, and Piyanka, one of the things that I think about there is both the cost optimization for like the person and the company, whoever's footing the bill for it. On some plans, it makes no sense to ever change down to less powerful models, to even think about usage. It's like use as much as you need to get the job done, because like you said, I'm building an application. I need it to write some code. I want that to work as well as possible the first time. Minimum debugging steps. I care about my time more than the extra dollars saved.
Yeah.
And that's, some situations are like that. And then there's others, as you mentioned, like we're building a system that multiple users are going to be running. Every efficiency we can pick up in that system could save that company that's implementing it hundreds of dollars per user per day. Let's get that one ironed out.
That's right. That's right. Especially something which is something which is going to be repeated.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, I know you had more ideas. Just feel free to jump in as and when. We'll keep talking. Me and Shanti are prolific talkers. Between us, we'll argue to hell, but feel free to jump in with whatever you're.
Yeah, it seems like too. There's on the first leg of this journey when a company's kind of transforming, because it seems like both your companies are in places that they're really really on the cutting edge right now. But like that first stage where you're trying to get everyone to use the same tools and use it in as many applications as possible, that part's expensive. That part, I feel like there's a lot of these times where you're like, use Opus, use most advanced model, or there's not as much emphasis on there. And I think there was times, in the insurance space, everything is like these PDFs of thousands of pages, and you're trying to take things out of it. And I think there was a time early on when I had like Opus open and the max like set, like I just didn't really know the settings, and it started ripping through 1,000-page document. I spent like $80 in a day, and but leadership there was like, these are all like learning experiences. Let's talk about it. So the settings, I think like there's just a high upfront cost to get everyone on the same page.
Yeah, Jake, that's funny. We came off of an engagement recently for a PE firm, and what we were doing was helping their AI enablement. So I went through with one of their admins on all of the Claude org settings and Claude Enterprise. Like, here's the things we went through earlier with them and said, what's your risk posture going to be? Are you high, medium, low risk? And based on that risk posture, how will you want to configure your Claude instance at the organizational level? How are you going to do things like evaluate different connectors that are coming in to decide, is this one we're going to let into our organization or not? And we went through all of the settings saying, where do we want to put this? Are we worried about the risk in terms of data loss? Are we worried about running up extra costs? Which things do we want to do first, and which ones will we stage with some education? So that type of enablement can be really powerful for the organization. And they were very gung-ho about wanting more people in the organization using tools, but using them the right way. So we were going to do it in stages. We're going to turn on chat first and say, hey, get used to the idea that this is happening. Put them through like a 1-hour training. Here's the Claude 101. Anthropic offers a pretty good one through SkillJar. Tells you like, what's Claude? What can you do in the chat interface? Then we're going to turn on Cowork. So we'll do the Claude Cowork training. What is available in Cowork? What are the differences? Where does the risk come when you're turning on something like that? So do you, like, I always recommend keeping it limited in scope to a single folder and the subfolders of that folder. So don't throw this in at like a root level and let it go through an entire file system. Like, scope this down to like, here's where it's going to do the least amount of damage as long as it stays inside this box. Most of the time it will stay in that box. So there's some things you can do at the org level to get people ready to adopt the tools, because we really do want everybody adopting the tools, because it will make their workflows more efficient. It should make their life better.
Yeah, Jake, and you were talking about getting people first. You want people to use it, and if there is this sort of a what's the word, like if there is this I'm not getting the word, but if there is an associated, you can be in danger zone by overusing, then you
Mm-hmm.
naturally not, I mean, you will not be able to overcome the resistance by people. But in that early stage, you want people to experiment with ease, but you want to set up systems on your end as perhaps I don't know what it's called, as AI admins to set up systems that you're not blowing through. But talk to me, Jake, specifically about techniques and tactics that you guys used that helped with that optimization. How did you go from, I don't know, 10%, 20% utilization that you were talking about at Nirvana, and all the way to 100% of people actually using? I believe Claude. You said Claude Cowork.
It ended up on like kind of a customized
Yeah,
like bespoke platform, but yeah,
yeah,
built on top of Claude.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, I would say for one, there was like this honeymoon phase where MCP honeymoon phase where everyone realized that you could connect to, especially like in like startup world, it feels like there's your data is all over the place, and it's not just like at least at Nirvana we had Snowflake, we had Granola, we had Notion, we had Linear, like all of these different systems that many people are working in all of them. So I think there was this phase where maybe this is around like last summer where all these companies were rolling out their MCPs and Anthropic kind of standardized that protocol and we connected everything. We connected everything all at once. And some of that was amazing because we realized you could have everything at your fingertips in kind of a well formatted way. But then I was coding a lot in Cursor at the time and started to realize that you're starting out your conversations with 30% or 40% of your context like already filled up working this way. So some of this is like learning by doing and the transition there like when we started working with all those connected and noticing that there was like really bad just context rot
yeah,
starting with like hallucinations insurance data in particular, it's like very wide. You think about for every customer, every person, you have hundreds, even thousands of data points on them, right? And then the heuristics on top of that of like customize those, which is kind of like the I think you were talking about in the last podcast. That's kind of like their moat at that point is being having those heuristics in, and so AI seemed really bad at figuring out those wide data sets without a lot of like customized business insight there. So there was like a couple problems going on at once. One was just like fully relying on MCPs to the Snowflake MCP to handle like your text to SQL,
yeah.
and and then the other was like that context filling up really quickly. And the transition there, I think it really came from Anthropic had put something out that it was like these instead of just loading up a full MCP, you use these custom functions. It can decrease your context by like 98%.
Wow.
We started doing that approach of seeing what we actually truly needed out of these MCPs, and it seems like there's really if you're on the GitHub MCP, there's really only a couple of search function. There's only a few that you need. So that's where that transition started from just like loading everything up to like starting to create um, very specific functions to get what we needed.
Was
And
that, Jake? I'm curious because I'm not specifically familiar with what you're talking about. Is it that you're doing chunking and you're giving a window, like a moving window, that like it doesn't take all the context. It takes like it's directed towards the context. Sometimes temporal, right? Like tell me only what this customer has done or use only recent data, last 10 days of data to make decisions on your claims or whatever. Is that what you're talking about when you're saying is it like really context jumping in some ways?
there's definitely some of that, but I think this specifically was also like a GitHub MCP comes with like 50, 60 different functions loaded in.
Aha.
And instead of that, going specifically like this, like creating functions that are like, this is the GitHub API. Back to how we like coded before these MCPs, and
Right.
these are the specific functions we needed. So moving into just getting that functionality that you needed instead
Okay.
of like
Okay, so you're not even, so this is not like really context jumping. It's basically saying these are the two things we're going to use over and over again. Let's just load only that or enable only that. Is that
right,
okay?
right, and creating skills out of that, creating guidance there for exactly how to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that decision of MCP versus skill is an important one. And yeah, even Anthropic was saying that, like, I mean, they created MCP, but as you bring in more MCP servers, you're loading all of the calls of all of the servers into context and it stays there. Whereas skills, you can have it choose the skill it needs like as it needs it.
Yeah, that's a very good distinction, especially with the MCP proliferation, which is happening. I think that makes a really good point. I'm also curious about how are you guys? In what ways have you thinking about? And my life is easier, and I can on Enola side is easier, and I can talk about. But really using like, especially for you, Jake, you're using you built it for the entire organization. So building this task and role specific prompt, you know, to basically narrow it down, or some kind of narrowing down, whether it is whichever function you use, in order to really not have context, not have rot, and not have drifts, and possibly have less hallucination. So it's not a guardrail, which is a post analysis. This is the pre-analysis of like, this is all you're going to play in, essentially. Is that something you use, Jake, at all, or no?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what yours pre and post are important. I think like creating that functionality of pulling in just this is your the space you can what you can bring in. Let's put some guardrails on exactly what that exactly where to go, how much to bring in, how far back to go in terms of like the data or anything that you're bringing.
Yeah.
But then that post part, I think found very important too. Maybe because of that insurance, the wide data, and there was just a need for a lot more validity checking, testing harnesses. So there was like that skill on the beginning, and then started moving towards using orchestrators, using additional agents that can go in. I think some of those were things like devil's advocate agent to talk about like the initial SQL pull if we're talking about like SQL. Another agent that has some of our like gold standard queries or gold standard data, and that can kind of check as well, like what you brought in, is that the right thing? So I think this like series of agents and kind of building it more into like an orchestrator, that was a transition too that I think helped.
Yeah. One of the things we are using on Enola, and maybe it touches a little bit to optimization, but definitely is touching on how many times we are going to run this same query back. Do we need to really run this query? Or can we just reuse I think it's called caching or reutilization, but basically creating positive and negative feedback, like giving the end user. So Enola is a CFO command center. It basically doesn't hallucinate because the core is heuristical, but it's like an agentic orchestration. And so when a user asks a question or we create a outcome, a workflow, if the user gives a thumbs up, it's a positive loop, and a thumbs down is a negative loop. And the system goes back. If it's a positive loop and it's curated query, we're not going to run it again ever. It's done. So it's kind of building those systems where you're like, this has been asked, we know how to solve it. Let's even just skip these two agents because it's already done. So this is like a little side, which is very specific to purpose-built tool, as a purpose-built tool. It's not necessarily as applicable. I don't think it's really as applicable to when you're building a system for your entire organization, where somebody from finance or marketing or HR, different people can come in. I think that's where probably like skills limiting or limiting the MCP calls that you can use. And also, what is it called? Tags, the things that you can tag and say, these are the only tags which are allowed, or, within this, if job title is this, then only this, that kind of system, possibly.
Yeah, that process that you're talking about is it seems like so important and how you make it truly into like a full system. But for at Nirvana, I would say, and this is like shout out to the engineers there. One of them, Vedant, built out an amazing system of like skill routing.
Yeah.
We did transition to this point where like it was kind of crowdsourced skills. So in any of those business areas you were talking about, we'd have marketing really do like what's a day in the life, what are the major things that we're working on, what are all of our business processes. So like filtering that down into like these are the exact things that if I had an agent or if I had an intern working with me, this is how they would do it, and then writing up their own skills. And then we had this, I would say, just like repository of skills for every different function, and that's how I think we moved from individual Claude instances, individual cursor, and moving on to like more of like a full platform. It really needed that skill routing to know this is this type of question, and if there's a marketing question, then these are the skills that are applicable to it. So that was like a cool company wide effort.
How do we know it's a well written skill or not? I mean, it's a good skill or not? Because, like you're saying, it's crowdsourced. Now, a junior person is giving you skills, a senior person or somebody who has been with the company has a context of how this, how to think through this, right? Essentially, skills is a how to think through this. How do you know one is good versus bad? And especially in the context of token utilization, one might be very inefficient. Is that something you've thought about? I don't know, Shanti, if you have thought about this.
Not specifically, but I've thought about a bunch of different ways to build harnessing so we can do evaluations. And I think that's a big part of the understanding if your skills are good, or that you have to have these measurable evaluations so we can say, we tried this skill, we made some tweaks. Here's what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like after those tweaks. A lot of people aren't doing that because they make the change. They think they say, it looks a little bit better. They make another change, but they're not keeping track of all of those things along the way to know what changed. And a lot of skills don't get version controlled. They're markdown files. You could be storing them, but people tend not to be. So we're not seeing the progress to know what's making the big difference. That's true at lots of levels. One of the things when we're talking, especially to like larger enterprises or enterprises in regulated industries, even if they're not that big, is the audit logs and observability and keeping track of all of those changes. But less for the auditors and more internally, you just want to know, hey, this worked. It was worth investing time in making this better. And that means having evaluation criteria that are measurable.
Yeah, that's a very good point about the measurability, and that's where I think it's as we're starting to do. Like, if I was doing this AI transformation again, which I think I'm having to do that at this point, I would focus on those from the startup. That start of like making sure that we have version control, making sure that we have KPIs to do these testing harnesses. Um, the other thing that got like that gets difficult is Claude's doing, or whichever agent is doing, a lot of this for you. So it's like sometimes I heard you talking about in one of the last podcasts, like we have Claude writing up the testing harnesses, and we have Claude writing helping to analyze the initial skill. Like the only thing that's really human written is like that initial skill.
Yeah.
So it gets to a difficult problem that it's like the traceability gets a little difficult, and it's something to think about from the start when you're doing this.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about, if you like, we are deep down into agentic systems that we all are talking about. But if you even zoom out, like if you're just using ChatGPT on a browser or anything else, and you create your prompt, or your first set of prompt, the follow-up sets the questions, the follow-up sets that the LLM asks back to you, it seems is set up for higher ask me more questions so I can use this more, right? Like, do you want me to run? And sometimes if you're lazy, you just say yes, go ahead, sure, right? But sometimes I've noticed that it's really like, wow, this is going to have full utilization. Do you want me to go and do quick research on this so that I can go actually fill all of this by let me just do this, right? Like so the some of the things that comes back. So I think inherently the LLMs are set up. I don't know how they are set up, but they're set up for let's increase usage, right? And within that context, you're saying now let me optimize it. Like it seems like you're countering the very way the way they're built essentially.
Yeah, I keep finding Gemini at home is trying to shop for me all the time. Like every time that I ask it like a question about something
Oh
at
yeah,
home, it's like, "Do you want me to buy this for you?"
yeah, yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
so
because it is serving as that's the monetization that they have put in. So yes, same for ChatGPT. Do you want me to? Yeah, so it's either token or I'm going to send you to some place where I'm going to get a referral feedback or something like that. Anything else that comes to your guys' mind as we think about token optimization? One thing go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying, Piyanka, not really. I think there's lots of different aspects to this concept of just AI utilization in general. Where does it fit best, and what does token utilization really mean? Whether it's like actually trying to make the most of every token so that we're going to minimize the number of output tokens that come back. So there's that library like Talk Like a Caveman, which actually just tries to shorten all of the words. Honestly, it works out fantastic. It works. You get fewer output tokens. You drop your cost by 30%, 40%. So there's little tricks like that, and then there's more systemic ways where you think about, hey, we're replacing MCP with skills wherever possible, so that all of our context windows are smaller every place we're using them. Or we think about what are the use cases for various models. So I only call the most expensive models when I actually need that level of thinking. And when I'm returning something like, hey, tell me the sentiment of this paragraph, a miniature model can do that. So let me do this in the smallest way. And you can get all the way down to, hey, should I be running things on device? Maybe I should. I love the idea of running things on device, and I'll throw that out there. More people should do this.
How many devices you have, Shanti?
Too many. Like computers in my office right now, 7.
Yeah. Oh.
I've got a Raspberry Pi 4, a Pi 5, 2 mini PCs, 2 laptops, and a desktop with 3 GPUs in it.
Yeah. You have a mini lab going here.
Yes.
Maybe you can give me some accounts. Maybe we can log into your, and I can distribute my compute there.
I was running VLLM on the multi-GPU machine, testing out a small local model to decide like how much coding could you actually do if you really wanted to do that. Yeah. It's not worth it. Like when you think about like what that costs up front to build versus like just subscribing to Claude,
distributed now,
yeah. I would love to say it's worth it. It's not.
Welcome to SaaS. That's why they have SaaS, right?
Yes.
If you could make it work at that small scale, then they wouldn't need to charge you $200 a month.
Yeah.
That.
You need some very specific use cases where you have like data that can't leave the premises, or you only want to do one thing, or you want to fine tune so a model speaks a very specific way. Sure, run that locally. Those are going to be small models though.
Yeah. One thing we do, and this might be again contextual to in Ola, as well as we do a lot of separation between planning and execution. So a lot of this conversation that happens with the end user when we're trying to understand what they're trying to say, there's a real conversation happening, which actually gives us a plan. So in a way, the user doesn't need to know anything about scale. We are creating that plan, and then we vet that plan with the user saying, this is my understanding, A, B, C, D, E. Does it look like a good plan? And then we execute. And the execution at that point can take, 60 seconds, 70 seconds to come and create a massive report. But the iteration goes down. So we really are able to control token. In our case, we have to, because we are selling this as a subscription. So we really have to be optimized, because if we are down on the cost and we are selling very, this is a SaaS, you can only charge as much as so that's, I think that separating out planning and execution and really thinking about planning in a deep way. We use a framework called Bader. That's also published in my book, Behind Every Good Decision. But basically, I think really thinking about planning and planning in a way that reduces iteration. Asking all kinds of questions, so you have covered that the desired results from all angles. So there isn't a rerun after that. I mean, it's still editable. All of our stuff, workflow, we created a QBR or MBR, whatever. Everything is editable, but the chances of going back to iteration is very low. So that also creates optimization. There are so many ways to solve this problem, but I thought of throwing this in as well. Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation, short and sweet, and thinking about token optimization. I don't think we are done with this topic. I want to bring this back again, sometimes deeper, because the models are evolving. What's happening with them is evolving. So we'll probably come back and chew on this again. But this is a good beginning conversation think about your token optimization.
Yeah, thank you both, Shanti, Piyanka, for having me on here. I think I learned some things that I can bring back to Sodali. Some really good ideas on measurability and metrics and the approach there. So looking forward to hopefully working or staying in touch with both of you. But thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, Jake. It was great meeting you. And apparently OpenAI just posted 2.5 hours ago about how to get the most out of Codex. So that can be a topic for another discussion.
Great.
Yeah.
It's
cool. All right. See you guys.
Thank you both.
Bye.
See you.
Thanks for listening to Not Another AI Podcast. If you found this conversation useful, consider subscribing so you don't miss future episodes where we break down what's actually happening in AI market beyond the headlines. See you in the next episode.